Thanks very much, Paul. Thanks for the warm welcome, and thanks to everybody for joining us today. I do appreciate it. It's great to be here and have the opportunity to talk about .NET, and it's wonderful to have Remy here with me as well. We've done a couple of .NET sessions together, one earlier this week, and we were in Common Europe for the IBM conference last month. So we'll be able to go through 4 different use cases that we've worked with, and time is short because the last couple of sessions we had were an hour, and this one's sort of just under half an hour or so. So we will focus on the use cases and then share assets and materials that you can use to use .NET on Power if you like. But the thing to take home is that we're here available to help you. So on the last page is our contact details and everything that you can come through to us. Remy, did you want to introduce yourself first, or will I hand over to you in a moment?
Yeah, I can introduce myself. So, hi everyone. Thank you for joining today. Thank you, Paul, for this introduction. I'm Remy from Aumerial. I'm the CTO. We are IBM BP ISV here in France, and we are our expertise is in .NET and IBM communication. And we developed a provider for the IBM called NTI, and I will explain a bit later what it's all about. But yeah, we are really into Microsoft.NET, and we have more than 30 years of expertise in IBM and AS400, or whatever you call it. And yeah, I will explain how .NET for us and for our customers is a big deal, and why running it on Power can have a huge benefits for clients.
Perfect, great. Thanks, Remy. So I want to rewind the clock 2 years really, well, actually 4 years ago, when I was talking to a lot of people about OpenShift and customers that I'd worked with to bring enterprise solutions to Power. They really loved the maturity, the performance, the scale, the availability, and everything. And some of those customers were looking to update like hyperconverged systems, and we were looking at bringing OpenShift to move some of those workloads over, as customers had obviously invested a lot of money, saw the Power Platform as very strategic. Of course, what we found was that a lot of x86 goes with VMware, goes with .NET, and .NET didn't run on Power. So we started campaigning with the offering management and development team to actually make .NET available on Power. And I was really over the moon sort of 2.25 years ago when I was working with offering management and development, when they said they were actually doing this. So I said, great, I really want to get involved early on and sort of pre-GA and maybe work with some customers before announcement. So that's what I did, and Janani, the chief architect and developer for the process, she actually gave me a version of .NET 7 that ran on Power about this time 2 years ago, about 5 months before GA. And I worked with some customers, and there's some examples in this presentation as we talk through later on. But I went out and I spoke with various different ISVs and business partners, managed service providers, customers alike, about what we were doing, and worked with some of them earlier on. One of those was Remi and Aumerial, and they were very keen to run .NET on Power, and we'll cover that in just a moment. But others with SKM and SMEUP we also discussed with. So this is just a reminder of when .NET came on Power. It was from version 7 onwards. And there's some references, and all these icons generally go off to downloadable references, etc. So as I said, I really want to focus on the 4 use cases in the 30 minutes that we have. So the first one we'd like to go through is to tell you about NTI and what Aumerial's doing with .NET and customers. So over to you, Remy.
Thank you, Paul. So yes, as I said, we are our company is working with .NET and IBM, and I will first explain what is .NET and why .NET, why clients should use .NET to to build their business applications. .NET is a platform to build any kind of application. You can go from web-based application to desktop application, and in the web application you have all the different flavors like websites, APIs, all the different kind of APIs. You can also do native mobile app, AI, and deploy those applications however you want. You can use containers, you can run them natively on the machine, like on VM or on Power now. And yes, you can basically address any use case with .NET. Whenever there is an application to develop, there is something in .NET to do it, and there is something in .NET to do it very efficiently, because it was designed for productivity and for state-of-the-art security, performance, and resource management, memory, CPU, etc. So yes, .NET is for me the go-to platform if you want to build modern applications that will be future-proof and that will run flawlessly for many years. And one of the main benefits from .NET is that now with .NET Core, since .NET Core 3 and now .NET 8, .NET 9, all this technology is fully multi-platform and multi-architecture. So how does that work? Your application is not compiled in any machine code or like it will be done with C++ or stuff like that. Your application is compiled in an intermediate language, and then this language runs on the machine through something that's called the runtime, and the runtime is what converts the .NET application to machine code, but on the fly. So that means you only have to develop and compile your application once. I can do it on my laptop, on my x86 laptop, and then my application will be multi-platform and multi-architecture. I just need the runtime on my platform to run my application. And that's why porting the .NET runtime on Power was a big deal, because there was runtimes for x86, runtimes for ARM CPUs, but there was no runtime for PowerPC 64. And now, with the announcement of .NET on Power, we can run natively applications, .NET applications on Power without any tweaks, without any modification. It runs just natively, and we can also run those applications in containers. I will do a quick demo in a few minutes to show you how it's done and what we can do with a simple use case. And yes, it's very easy to port any .NET application to Power, and especially .NET IBM applications with our solution NTI, because our solution NTI is a provider for the IBM designed for .NET, because IBM is only providing ODBC and stuff based on ODBC drivers to access the IBM from .NET, and those drivers need to be installed on the machine and are totally outside of the scope of .NET. So there is no real multi-platform. It's not multi-platform and multi-architecture, and it lacks performance and reliability. So we developed NTI based on customer demand and on stuff we identified before. And so NTI is a native .NET provider that allows access to all of the IBM resources, starting from the DB248 database. All of the CRUD operation can be done very easily from .NET with no specific knowledge. You just need to know SQL, C#, and then you're good to go. You can develop IBM .NET and IBM applications. You can also execute commands, CL commands from the IBM directly from .NET, or call your existing program. So yeah, you can just do whatever you want directly from .NET without any green screen or any strong IBMI stuff. It's really easy to do, and there is no specific training to use it. It's lightweight, very powerful. Compared to an ODBC driver, we gained 30% in response time on an average scenario. Like on my laptop, I'm on average 30% faster than the ODBC, and then when we run it on Power, it's crazy. It's going even faster. And yes, NTI, you don't need to install anything, and your .NET application will be able to access your IBMI without anything to install on the IBMI or on .NET. And so you can build .NET IBMI application that will run in any environment. So as a container in Docker, in OpenShift, on Red Hat, native Android, native iOS, native Windows, Linux, all the different kind of Linux you can run NTI with. You can also run it directly on the IBMI using the Mono runtime. So yeah, it's quite universal, easy to use, and platform version agnostic. It can run with any version of IBMI, any version of .NET. It's fully standard and universal. So before .NET was introduced on Power, it was only limited to x86 and ARM environments. And then when Paul told me at first that .NET was introduced on Power, for us it was a great opportunity because we could propose our clients new use cases, new kind of application architecture, and now clients can run their .NET workloads directly on Power without any need of x86 server or VM or VMware or anything. They can just put them on Power in containers or directly natively on Power, and it runs just fine. As an example, you can go to the next slide, Paul. As an example, the typical use case for us is an IBMI client who has a server Power running IBMI just fine for 20 years. I don't know. The client has his Power infrastructure, and around this Power infrastructure, he has x86 servers to run applications like .NET applications. And now we can tell the customer that he don't need those x86 servers because he already have IBM Power, and then usually when you are only running IBMI, you have free remaining resources on your machine, unused resources, CPU, memory. So you can build a Linux partition as a separate partition on the Power, or you can do it embedded into the IBMI, so you don't have to go through the HMC or anything. And then on this partition, you can run Docker and then run your .NET application, .NET IBMI application with NTI, and it's running on the same machine with the internal Power network. So it's really efficient, really secured. There is nothing from the IBMI that is exposed to the outside. It's only application, and you really control what you expose, and it's really secured. And yeah, the latency is very low. For instance, when we are running .NET application on the same machine as the IBMI with the internal network of the Power, the virtual internal network, we have like 0.3 milliseconds for one SQL query. So it's really lightning fast, and it scales. It can be scaled very easily also, because with containers, you just multiply the containers and then you scale your applications. You will still have bottlenecks somewhere, but yeah, it's quite easy to scale and yeah, efficient, and you don't need any more x86 servers. So I will do a quick, I will show you a quick demonstration of this kind of application. So, Paul, did you have on your presentation, did you have the next figure or with all the architecture diagram? Yeah, so the demo I will show you is a basic use case of a database application running on Power and having an IBM I as a backend. So it's the use case is a concert ticket booking application. So you can log into your account. You can you have a dashboard when you can book tickets for concerts, and then you can display your ticket. So that's the first application, and then there is another application that is the scanner for the tickets. So it's a phone application that will allow people to scan the tickets and to check if people paid for the tickets and everything. So yeah, there are two different applications that are targeting the same IBM I backend with the same database in DB2.4i, and everything is running in the same Power machine. So the containers are on the here on my demonstration. They are running on Red Hat on Power and are targeting an IBM I partition. They are running in Podman as the containers, and yes, it's on my demonstration today. It's not going through the internal network of Power, but yeah, it's quite the same. You can run it on the same machine. So yeah, I will now show you the demonstration and share my screen. So now you should see my screen. Yes. So here is the login page of the website. Okay, I can just connect. I see a list of concerts, so I will book some tickets for me. For Paul Bentley as well. All right, so I booked 3 tickets for my for the concert. I can see them here in my different bookings. So I have 3 tickets that don't that were not scanned, and then I can open my application, my website directly from my phone. So I can show you here. I have my phone application with my QR code scanner, and if I display the QR code for this ticket, I just use my phone to scan it. It tells me that the ticket had been scanned. And now if I refresh, yeah, I see that my ticket was scanned. And everything is done in real time on the IBM I on Power. The phone service is running on Power in a container, and basically everything is running on Power. So that's straightforward, quite easy to understand, and it's really easy to deploy. There is no specific knowledge in IBM I. Anyone can develop this kind of application, and yes, I see that I'm running out of time, so I will conclude quickly. But yeah, this way of developing application is really straightforward and easy to perform for the clients, even if they never did any container stuff or .NET stuff. It's quite easy and inexpensive for the client. So if you have any question, please put them in the chat, and we'll answer them at the end. Thank you.
Get off mute, Paul.
You're still on mute.
Unmute, sorry. There I was talking, saying that Francois had asked a question and answering it, and nobody could hear. Apologies for that. Okay, so yes, the slides and the replay will be available for sure. And just moving on to the next use case that we can share with you. Okay, so the next one is actually a customer that I was working with in Q2 that have just purchased Power Enterprise pools to run .NET development for their organization on. As it turns out, the customer was already looking at .NET with x86 and OpenShift with Red Hat, but that was put on hold, I think, while they get sort of relationship matters with the Broadcom and VMware sort of relationships ironed out. So that was put on hold. They did look at it to see if they could utilize IBM Fusion hyperconverged infrastructure for this. But it was quite a high entry point because, you know, you have to buy so many servers, and it was quite a large cost of acquisition, which was, you know, the exact opposite, if you like. They already had SAP running on Power scale out servers, and they were already using Power Enterprise pools, which meant that they could actually pay just for what they're used for on a minute by minute basis. So originally they weren't running to check out OpenShift, but the ability to run .NET development on their Power infrastructure on a pay-as-you-go basis with the, you know, enterprise RAS availability, performance, security that goes along with that was of interest to them, and they've just started that up now. So they had a really low entry cost, as I say. They just bought like 3 OpenShift subscriptions, and anything above that as they grow, they can just pay per minute, or they can buy more permanent activations, etc., to do that. So that's a really good use case, showing how, you know, the consumption model that can play nicely with .NET and Power. So the next one is actually another IBM ISV, really, SME. So again, I met with Mauro, the CTO at SME just under 2 years ago, and the first time I met with him, it was to talk about .NET, and they were quite excited about that because they were modernizing a lot of their enterprise solutions with .NET, and they were very, very friendly, very, you know, passionate about IBM. It's grown, you know, provided maturity and stability over the years, very strong platform. They'd also acquired various other solutions which was using quite old versions of .NET, maybe going back to version 3, etc. So actually, at the end of last year, when I announced the early adoption program for the multi-arc compute, which allows us to run x86 and Power within the same OpenShift cluster, not just for .NET, that was just one part of it, but the process there meant that they could actually deploy .NET in an OpenShift cluster, and while they migrate that up to version 7, version 8 that's supported on Power, and then easily migrate that over. And I've done another sort of webinar, and there's videos available showing how to do that. So that's another ISV that's modernizing with .NET, their Power and IBM I environment. These 3 slides are actually what the CTO Mauro shared at Tech Exchange Barcelona. So we went through the early adoption process in November, talked about it in November, did it in December and January, and then they presented it at Tech Exchange at the end of January. So the fourth one was the first, actually. So this was SKM, an engineering company. They were already running an AI solution on Power, and they wanted to move an enterprise solution from public cloud Azure to Power Virtual Server. However, they've been struggling to get Mono, which is another way of running .NET type applications on Power. They struggled for 6 months. So when I heard of this, I had a meeting and said, hey, would you like to work with us on an early adoption program? I'll give you some code to try out. They gave me the code that they were experiencing the problem with, and it just ran on our pre-GA code. So I spun up a demonstration, which is available on YouTube. It's not particularly exciting, but it was the first time we ran .NET on Power with a customer's code, if you like, and that just worked. So then we went through NDA so that they could get the code, and to make it work, as Remy was saying, it's platform agnostic. All they had to do in the Docker file was change, saying don't take the media from Microsoft, but get it from our own development environment, which would now be Red Hat, because we passed it to Red Hat to provide the support, and you can run that in RHEL or OpenShift. And also just change from version 5 to version 7, and there was no code changes. It was just that to make it all work. This is a landscape of the solution and the architecture, and you can see, again, as Remy was saying, that it's easy to scale out, and that's what they were using .NET for. So .NET was actually doing the calculations for 3D models, communicating with an API server, and IKeyCloak for security, and MySQL for data, with Node.js on the front end. So a nice microservice solution. And the screenshots from this show it. It was great for me to see, I think, because it runs on Android, iPhone, tablets, and it's 3D imaging. So, you can put on your VR headset, and the engineers were creating 3D models that they could practically reach out and touch. And this was all being done on Power servers. So that was a great opportunity to work with SKN. We did provide a public write-up, a customer reference. So when you get the slides, you can click on this and you've got a public reference there. But also Michael, the software engineer that I worked with, the lead developer on that, actually joined me for a webinar. And I'll put a link here to his part where he's just talking about his experience of that early adoption program. But there's a quote here, it's stable, even under heavy workload. Last piece of the puzzle to get it working. He was very, very pleased. Looking at the time, we're coming up to the end now, and we've just been through the 4 use cases that I wanted to share. So I'll very quickly just show you some of the other material in the deck. There's an 8-minute video that I've provided on YouTube, which takes you through the installation of .NET, a sample Hello World type application, and it also talks about different blogs from Janani, the lead developer, who you can gain assistance to. We're all very happy to work with anybody about putting this .NET on Power into production and helping you to achieve that. The rest of the document has got lots of materials which can help you, but really, as we're approaching the bottom of the hour, I think I just want to put the contacts up on the last page. There are demos in TechZone that you can use. Lots of different ways to access not just IBM I, but other open source databases as well. So here we have Remy, obviously, who you met today, and I thank again for joining us today, Remy. That was great, talking about NTI and providing the demonstration as well. Laurent is a partner technical specialist that works with Remy, so there's a lot of experience in this. Myself, obviously, you can come to for help. Manoj is the product manager, and Janani leads the technical developers that ported it to Power and provided to Red Hat to provide that support, if you like. So with that, thanks very much again, Paul. Thanks to everybody for joining us today. Hope you have a great weekend, and I'll pass back to Paul Bentley.